My parents made my 10-year-old son walk 3 miles in 97 degrees Fahrenheit heat. When I confronted them, the harsh reality of their actions shocked me. My 82-year-old grandpa's unexpected response taught them a lesson they won't forget. Hey, Reddit. The day my parents made my son walk 3 miles in the heat, I wasn't there to stop it. That realization weighs heavily on me. Not because I didn't love him enough, or because I blindly trusted my parents, but because I never thought the people who raised me would consider pain a suitable lesson for a child, especially my child. The visit was meant to be harmless, a simple weekend at my parents' house, the same one I grew up in, with the same creaky porch and backyard where I learned to ride a bike. I thought it would be good for my son to connect with his grandparents and hear stories about the past. I had a double shift at work that Saturday, 12 hours I couldn't afford to miss. I told my mother I'd pick him up Sunday morning. She sighed on the phone, saying, "You worry too much. He needs discipline. You let him get away with too much." That comment stuck with me longer than it should have. Weather warnings had been constant all week. Heat advisory, stay hydrated, limit outdoor activity. 97 degrees Fahrenheit might not sound severe on paper, but it's different when you're in it, when the air feels thick and sweat clings to you. I packed his bag carefully, folding clothes with extra attention: 2 shirts, a hat, sunscreen, and a large insulated water bottle. Drink water even if you're not thirsty, I reminded him. If you feel tired, stop. Don't push through. He nodded, serious in a way only kids can be when they want to prove they can be trusted. I know, Mom. I'll be fine. He was 10 tall for his age but still thin, all elbows and knees, gentle enough that adults often underestimated him. When we arrived at my parents' house, I sensed tension immediately. My father stood in the doorway with arms crossed, and my mother's smile was tight. "What's all that?" my father asked, eyeing the backpack. "Just some things," I replied lightly. My mother chuckled. "You pack like he's going to summer camp." "It's hot," I said. "I just want him prepared." My father shook his head. "In our day, kids walked miles without whining." I forced a smile. "He's not you," I said quietly. "He's a child." That earned me a familiar look, one that said, "You're too soft." I knelt to hug my son. "Have fun," I told him. "And remember what I said." He hugged me back tightly. "I will." As I drove away, I told myself I was projecting my own childhood onto the situation. They were strict, yes, but not cruel. They loved him in their own way. I was wrong. The call came that evening, already dark outside. I almost missed it because I was still at work. "Mom," he said when I answered, his voice quiet and smaller than usual. My heart sank. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" There was a pause. I could hear a TV in the background. Laughter, normal sounds that felt horribly out of place. "Can you come get me?" he asked, and my chest tightened. "Why?" Another pause. "They made me walk," he said. I stopped in my tracks. "Walk where?" "To the store." "How far?" Silence. "I think 3 miles. I felt dizzy. "And you walked back?" "Yes." My voice shook. "Did you have water?" "No," he whispered. "Grandma said I didn't need it." I left work right away. When I arrived, I found him sitting on the couch, pale and sweaty. His shirt was soaked, hair stuck to his forehead, eyes glassy. He tried to smile. "I didn't complain," he said. "Grandpa said, real boys don't complain." That shattered something inside me. I got him into the car and blasted the air conditioning, handing him water and watching as he sipped. "You did nothing wrong," I told him repeatedly. "Nothing." He leaned back, exhausted. "I just wanted them to be proud of me," he whispered. I bit my lip to hold back tears. At home, I stayed up most of the night, monitoring his breathing and checking his temperature. As he slept on the couch, one thought kept circling my mind: this wasn't discipline, it was control. I called my parents. "What were you thinking?" I asked, my voice shaking. My mother sighed. "You're overreacting." My father laughed. "He walked. He survived. That's how kids learn." "Learn what?" I demanded. "Respect," he replied, then added casually, "pain teaches lessons faster." That turned my fear into resolve. The next morning, I drove back, not angry but focused. My grandfather was sitting on the porch as always, quiet and observant. He looked at my son, then at me, then at my parents. For the first time, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before: not anger or sadness, but determination. What my parents revealed during that confrontation stunned me, but what my grandfather did next would teach them a lesson they'd never forget. The living room felt smaller than I remembered, not because of the furniture, but because the truth had filled the space. My son stood beside me, shoulders hunched, eyes on the floor like he was waiting for judgment. I noticed how carefully he stayed out of the way, learning to disappear in the presence of authority. That realization hurt more than anything my parents could say. My father broke the silence first. "You're blowing this out of proportion," he said, arms crossed. He walked. "Kids need endurance. That's how we were raised." I stared at him. "No," I replied quietly. "That's how you survived." "There's a difference." My mother sighed, rubbing her temples. "You're too emotional right now. Let's not turn this into a whole thing." I felt my hands curl into fists. "A whole thing?" I repeated. You sent a 10-year-old out in 97-degree heat without water. My father scoffed. He didn't collapse, did he? My son flinched. That's when he spoke. I asked to stop, he said softly. Every head turned toward him. My mother frowned. You didn't ask. You complained. He swallowed hard. I said my head hurt, he whispered. And I felt dizzy. The room went silent. My father waved it off. Kids exaggerate. That's when my grandfather spoke. Do they? He asked. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut straight through the room. He leaned forward in his chair, hands resting on his cane. Tell me something, he said, looking directly at my father. How much water did you give him before sending him out? My father hesitated. Well, and tell me, my grandfather continued, not raising his voice. How many breaks did you allow? My mother answered instead. He didn't need breaks. My grandfather nodded slowly. That's what I thought. He turned his gaze to my son. Did you feel afraid? He asked gently. My son nodded. Yes, sir. Did you think you were in trouble for needing help? Another nod. Yes. My grandfather closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, something had changed. When I was a boy, he said, my father believed pain made men. My parents stiffened. He made me work in the fields in the heat until I collapsed. My grandfather continued. I didn't become strong. I became silent. The room felt heavy. I learned not to ask for help, he said. I learned to hide pain, and I learned that adults could not be trusted. He looked at my father. That's what you taught this child yesterday. My father shifted uncomfortably. That's not what we meant. It doesn't matter what you meant, my grandfather gently interrupted. It matters what he learned. Then my grandfather stood slowly, deliberately. At 82, every movement was careful, but his presence filled the room completely. You didn't teach discipline, he said. You taught fear. My mother opened her mouth. He raised a hand. I'm not finished. That alone stunned them. You waited until his mother wasn't here, he said calmly. You knew she would stop you. My father's face flushed. That's unfair. It's accurate, my grandfather replied. He turned toward my son and knelt slightly, bringing himself to eye level. You did nothing wrong, he told him. Asking for water is wisdom. Stopping when you're dizzy is intelligence. Tears streamed silently down my son's face. My grandfather placed a hand on his shoulder. Real strength is knowing when to protect your body. Then he turned back to my parents. And because you crossed that line, he said, things will change. My mother gasped. What do you mean? My grandfather's voice was steady. You will not be alone with this child again. The room erupted. You can't decide that. That's extreme. You're overreacting. My grandfather didn't raise his voice. I've already decided, he said. He looked at me. You trusted them, he said quietly. They broke that trust. Tears finally spilled down my face. I'm sorry I wasn't there, I whispered. He squeezed my hand. You're here now, he said. That's what matters. We left shortly after. No shouting or drama, just a line drawn that couldn't be erased. The weeks that followed were tough. My parents called constantly, apologies mixed with excuses, regret mixed with defensiveness. But the boundary remained supervised visits only. No lectures, no tough love. They didn't like it, but that wasn't my problem anymore. Something changed in my son. He stopped forcing bravery. He stopped apologizing for being tired. One night, weeks later, he said quietly, Mom, I like that Grandpa listened. I smiled through my tears. So do I. Pain is not discipline. Fear is not respect. Children don't need to be hurt to grow strong. When adults confuse suffering with character, they pass down trauma, not values. Silence protects harm. Boundaries protect children. And sometimes, the wisest voice in the room is the one that remembers exactly what cruelty can do. That's all for today's story. Thanks for watching.